Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 22 of our Habit Do It for a Day challenge. Today came fast. I don't know about anybody else, but it came fast. Yes, so it is Monday morning, day 22. Just a few more days. Remember, we might have to add an extra day. I'm still not exactly sure how this is going to, because I haven't taken the time to actually look, but I kind of messed up at the beginning. So we might have to add an extra day in there to finish it up. But we are on our fifth habit that we've been kind of going through. We did flip the script, kiss the wave, eat the frog, fly the kite. And today we're starting cut the rope. And so each of these habits or titles, right? We had 3 days on each one. And so what I've noticed is that each one of us might be somewhere different, right? On our journey in habit building or habit breaking. And so, flip the script might be the whole reason you did this challenge, is that you need to learn to flip that script, that inner voice that leads you, right? Whether the Lord or otherwise. So that's the thing to really, we're doing every day, but there will be something. There will be one that just is for you for that moment. So today we've got, what did I say? This was number 5, cut the rope. And we're going to jump right in because this is the day where we have a little bit of extra reading. So we're going to get started. And sad face, I'm out of my almond creamer and I can't even have my coffee here. This is my coffee time, you guys, and I don't get one. Hey, good morning, Vance. -1. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a little chilly. That is really chilly. I was feeling chilly, but you got it worse than I do. Well, I'm glad you're on this morning. I guess when it's that cold, right? What else is there to do? Okay, let's get started. Day 22, habit number 5, cut the rope. Playing it safe is risky. In 1853, America hosted its first World's Fair in New York City. The organizers built an exhibition hall to showcase the latest and greatest inventions. That is where a man named Elisha Otis stole the show with a unique sales pitch. The inventor of the elevator safety brake was having a hard time selling his idea to safety-first skeptics. What did he do? He gave the OG elevator pitch. Standing on a platform high above the exhibition hall, Otis positioned an axeman above the elevator shaft. Then he yelled in a voice loud enough for everyone in the exhibition hall to hear, "Cut the rope!" The crowd held its collective breath as the elevator fell a few feet. Otis announced, "All safe, gentlemen, all safe." The safety brake worked, as did the elevator pitch. When Elisha Otis cut the rope, only a few buildings in New York City were taller than 5 floors. Why? No one wanted to take the stairs. In 1854, Otis installed an elevator in a building on Broadway. By 1890, 10 buildings were taller than 10 stories. By 1900, 65 buildings were taller than 20 stories. By 1908, 538 buildings in New York City qualified as skyscrapers. Fast forward 100 years. According to the Otis Elevator Company, the equivalent of the world's population rides an Otis elevator or escalator every 3 days. Not only did Elisha Otis turn the world upside down, but his idea also influences the everyday lives of billions of people 150 years later. Of course, I still stand by the advice offered on day 2. Take the stairs. If you want to build a suspension bridge, fly a kite. If you want to build a skyscraper, cut the rope. Fly the kite, habit 4, is all about starting small. Over time, those small wins add up to winning streaks. Cut the rope, habit number 5, is about cutting the ribbon. It's going public, which is a powerful commitment device. Like Elisha Otis, go big or go home. Cutting the rope is throwing down the gauntlet in a way that marks the moment. In the winter of 2000, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph got onto an elevator at the Renaissance Tower in Dallas, Texas. I'm not sure whether it was an Otis elevator, but they were about to cut the rope. After exiting the elevator, Reed whispered to Mark, "Blockbuster is 1,000 times our size." They exited the elevator on the 27th floor, walked into a cavernous conference room, and made their elevator pitch. At the time, Blockbuster was a $6 billion giant that dominated the home entertainment business with almost 9,000 retail stores. Hastings and Randolph suggested that Blockbuster purchase their startup company called Netflix, and Netflix would run their online video rental arm, Blockbuster.com. You know what Netflix has become. You've probably binge watched a few of their original series. When Netflix made this pitch, they were a 2-year-old startup with an unorthodox business model. People could order their movies on Netflix's website and receive those DVDs through the mail. Who did that? I did. I remember that. We were in Montana. Michaela is 21. Yes, she was just a baby. I remember doing that, ordering. I remember that. They had 300,000 subscribers at the time, but their net losses that year would total 57 million. Blockbuster took a hard pass. Why? They didn't see the future. They were stuck in the past, unwilling to change their business model, which is a lot like interrupting the pattern. They missed out on an opportunity to buy Netflix for 50 million. That price might seem steep for a startup, but it represented 3 days of revenue for Blockbuster. In 2000, only 1% of homes in the US had a broadband internet connection. Hard to remember, right? Actually, if you ever had a dial-up internet connection, you'll never forget that sound, will you? Nope, I have it in my head right now. By 2010, broadband connections had skyrocketed to 62%. That changed the game, and the name of the game was video streaming. You know the rest of the story. Blockbuster would file for bankruptcy, and Netflix is now worth an estimated $125 billion. Of course, it didn't have to be that way. Blockbuster played it safe, and playing it safe is risky. In the world of economics, there are 2 kinds of cost: actual cost and opportunity cost. An actual cost is an expenditure that shows up on your balance sheet as a liability. An opportunity cost is a hidden cost. There's an old adage, count the cost, and it's a 2-sided coin. You have to count the actual cost like an accountant, do your homework, do your legwork, do your groundwork. You also have to count the opportunity cost, which is a very different calculus. When Amazon stock went public in 1997, I thought long and hard about investing in it because I was buying books from Amazon every other day. Sorry. Okay, sorry guys, where am I? It wasn't a huge amount of money, but I decided to invest elsewhere. Okay, I'm not on Facebook. I'm good to go. Am I back on Facebook, you guys? Sorry. Okay. Am I on here? I'm on. Okay, thank you. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Well, now I got to get off here. Okay. Okay, I think I'm back. Sorry about that. That was weird. Okay. What were we talking about? Okay, when Amazon stock went public in 1997, I thought long and hard about investing in it because I was buying books from Amazon every other day. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but I decided to invest elsewhere. Failing to invest in Amazon didn't cost me a dime in terms of actual cost. No harm, no foul. I recently calculated how much that investment would have been worth today, and it was a painful exercise. In terms of opportunity cost, I lost a small fortune. It sounds contradictory, but the greatest risk is taking no risks. Not only does it maintain the status quo, but it's also a recipe for regret. More specifically, inaction regret. According to psychologist Tom Gilovich, there is a difference between short term and long term regret. In the short term, we tend to regret the mistakes we've made. In the long term, we regret the opportunities we've missed more than the mistakes we've made by a margin of 84% to 16%. We all experience failure, and it can be incredibly painful. But at the end of our lives, our greatest regrets will be the things we would have, could have, and should have done. It's time to cut the rope. Okay, so our day reading is called Change the Routine. And our scripture is 1 Samuel 17:47. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. In June 1976, a massive explosion leveled half a city block in Los Angeles and killed 9 people. It was caused by an 18-inch miscalculation. While excavating the 9500 block of Venice Boulevard, someone cut into a petroleum pipeline, releasing thousands of gallons of pressurized gasoline. It wasn't the first or last accident of its kind, but the enormity of the tragedy led to the use of color-coded utility markings. If you live in an urban area, you've seen sidewalks spray painted with red and yellow and green markings. To be honest, those markings were a mystery to me most of my life. In fact, I found them a little irritating. You get a new sidewalk, and the next thing you know, it's got graffiti all over it. I now know why, and it makes common sense. Those above ground markings map the underground network of pipes, tubes, and wires that crisscross every city in America. In case you care, I'll decode the colors. Red represents electric, yellow is gas, orange is telecommunications, green is sewer. Those color-coded utility markings help excavators steer clear of subsurface hazards. Remember the Duke University study? 45% of our behavior is automatic. In other words, it's subconscious. Those habits are the wires that crisscross our cerebral cortex. You could even call them tripwires. If you're going to deconstruct and reconstruct your habit cycles, give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, sorry. Where am I? Okay. When I was in graduate school, I was introduced to the work of an eccentric psychologist named Milton Erickson. His therapeutic methods are quite legendary, and I might add, non-traditional. His genius was identifying and interrupting patterns of behavior. One day, an overweight man came to Dr. Erickson for counseling. His self-assessment: I'm a retired policeman, medically retired. I drink too much, I smoke too much, I eat too much. Can you help me? Dr. Erickson asked him a series of questions. Where do you buy your cigarettes? The man said, there is a handy little grocery store around the corner from where I live. Dr. Erickson asked, how do you buy your cigarettes? The man said, usually 3 cartons at a time. Dr. Erickson continued his questioning. Where do you shop? The policeman said, at a handy little grocery around the corner. Dr. Erickson continued, where do you dine out? The man said, at a very nice restaurant around the corner. And finally, Dr. Erickson asked, now the liquor. The man said, there's a handy little liquor store around the corner. Do you know why bad habits are hard to break? They're too convenient. What did Dr. Erickson do? He interrupted the pattern by changing the man's routine. You're an ex-policeman and you want to correct your blood pressure and your obesity, emphysema, and you buy cigarettes 3 cartons at a time, said Dr. Erickson. Now, your therapy isn't going to require very much. His prescription? You can do all the smoking you want. Buy your cigarettes 1 package at a time by walking to the other side of town to get the package. As for doing your own cooking, well, you haven't much to do, so shop 3 times a day. Buy only enough for 1 meal, but no leftovers. As for dining out, there are a lot of good restaurants a mile or 2 away. That'll give you a chance to walk. As for your drinking, I see no objection to your drinking. There are some excellent bars a mile away. Get your first drink in one bar, your second drink in a bar a mile away, and you'll be in excellent shape before very long. That sounds almost like reverse psychology, doesn't it? I'm not sure I would put the stamp of approval on harmful habits, but the prescription worked. How? By interrupting the pattern. If you want to break a bad habit, make it less convenient. Once again, harder is better. You have to turn your habits inside out and upside down. You have to reverse engineer them. Sometimes the solution is as simple as changing the sequence. Other times it requires interrupting the pattern by changing tactics altogether. Few phrases are more famous than David versus Goliath. It's the oh my gosh. Quintessential? That doesn't seem right. I'm not pronouncing that right. Mismatch. The classic underdog story. The irony is that we read this story the wrong way. We think David was the one at a disadvantage. If they'd been engaging in hand-to-hand combat, yes, there is no way David could have defeated Goliath in a cage match. But David's perceived disadvantage in terms of size and experience turned out to be his greatest advantage. Goliath was infantry. All he had was a ground game. David was artillery. He used the skill set that he had cultivated as a shepherd. Remember Kenny Sailors and his patented jump shot? David took a jump shot with his slingshot, and Goliath didn't even see it coming. In his book, David and Goliath, Malcolm Gladwell cited a study by Eitan Hirsch, a ballistics expert with the Israel Defense Forces. According to Hirsch, an average size stone hurled by an expert slinger could travel the length of a football field in 3 seconds flat. At that velocity, it's got the same stopping power as a .45 caliber handgun. Wow. Goliath's spear may have been the size of a weaver's beam, but he still just brought a really big knife to a gunfight. David was not the underdog. Goliath was a sitting duck. Goliath's strength proved to be his weakness, and David's weakness proved to be his strength. Remember the giant blockbuster? They didn't adapt. to evolving technology, and it cost them their company. An upstart company called Netflix used a slingshot called streaming to interrupt the pattern and deliver movies wirelessly. David's victory was not improbable, it was inevitable. Sure, David looked a little foolish going to war with a slingshot, but there is no way artillery loses to infantry. Of course, you have to cut the rope. How? At some point, enough is enough. You need to pick up a few rocks from the brook Elah and put them in your pouch. Israel has been held captive by Goliath's taunting long enough. The same goes for the bad habits that taunt us. If you measure them against your ability, you come out on the short end of the stick. If you measure them against God, it's no contest. To the infinite, all finites are equal. There is no big or small, easy or difficult, possible or impossible. How big is your God? Is he bigger than your biggest problem, your worst mistake, your greatest challenge? How much happier you would be, how much more of you there would be, said G.K. Chesterton, if the hammer of a higher God could smash your small cosmos. I know giants are big. I know giants are scary, but the bigger they are, the harder they fall. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, said David. Can't you see him wagging his finger or wiggling his big toe like Chris Norton? But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. Sometimes the solution is more, but more of the same doesn't solve every problem. Instead of trying harder, you need to try different. Remember habit 3, eat the frog? If you want God to do the super, you've got to do the natural. Let me push that envelope and cut that rope. If you want God to do something new, you can't keep doing the same old thing. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus interrupted the pattern by reconditioning reflexes. When someone curses you, what is your natural reaction? You curse back. Of course, all that does is perpetuate the problem. It escalates the situation by creating a vicious cycle. In a dog-eat-dog world, Jesus issued a counterintuitive command. Bless those who curse you. That is easier said than done, but there is no defense against it. Try it. Remember day 19? We shift the atmosphere by operating in the opposite spirit. We stop vicious cycles by exercising grace. We start virtuous cycles by exercising faith, hope, and love. Either way, it provokes questions for which the gospel is the answer. One key to making habits is establishing routines. But once the routine becomes just a routine, you have to change it up. It's called the law of requisite variety. If you always work out the same way, eventually that workout will lose its effectiveness because your body adapts to the routine. You have to confuse your muscles by interrupting the pattern. The same is true spiritually, relationally, emotionally, and intellectually. The good news, if you tweak your routines, a 1% change can make a 99% difference. The next time someone insults you, return that volley with a compliment. Don't be surprised if you see a confused look on the person's face. It will throw him for a loop, a habit loop. It may not stop the bad behavior, but it will stop him in his tracks. If you fight fire with fire, all it does is escalate the situation. No one ever wins a shouting match. No one wins the blame game. When God wants us to change, do you know what he does? He doesn't issue threats. He shows us kindness. If that doesn't work, he shows us more kindness. It's a counterintuitive tactic, but it's awfully effective. It has the potential to break a vicious cycle and start a virtuous one. In the 8th century BC, the Israelites and the Arameans were like the Hatfields and the McCoys. They were constantly at war until the prophet Elisha interrupted the habit cycle. How? He lured the Aramean army into Israel's capital city, and he could have killed them. Of course, that would have escalated the conflict to another level. So what did he do? He threw them a surprise party. With full stomachs and confused minds, Elisha sent them home. The result? Aram stopped raiding Israel's territory. Was it a risky strategy? Absolutely. But that's how you break the cycle, break the habit. Who do you need to throw a party for? What are you waiting for? In the words of Pink's 2001 classic hit, Get the Party Started. One of the best ways to win the day is by making someone else's day. You can interrupt the pattern with a single smile. You can shift the atmosphere with a single compliment. One act of kindness can break the cycle and have a domino effect that changes generations. Let me connect the dots. A, B, C, D style. Long before David challenged Goliath to a duel, his great-great-grandmother cut the rope with an act of kindness. What was it? She saved the lives of some Jewish spies with one request, that her family would be shown mercy when Israel conquered Jericho. That one act of kindness didn't just save her life, it set the table for future generations. She married Salmon and had a son named Boaz, who had a son named Obed, who had a son named Jesse, who had a son named David. Make it your mission to make someone's day. It could change the course of history. So how do you make it a habit? Try different. In 1894, the Times of London ran a feature article about an impending crisis that threatened civilization itself. In a word, manure. The population of London had topped 1 million people, and more people meant more horses, 50,000 to be exact. Do the math. The average horse poops 30 pounds per day. Okay, wow, I didn't know that. That's just one horse. That adds up to 1.5 million pounds of poop per day. The Times of London estimated that London would be buried under 9 feet of manure in 50 years. London, we have a problem. And New York City was even worse. There were vacant lots with manure piled 60 feet high. Experts forecast that the Big Apple would be up to its third-story windows in manure by the year 1930. In 1898, urban planners met in London to try to solve the problem. The first conference was scheduled to last 10 days. The organizers called it quits after 3 days, with no solution in sight. Why? They were trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions. They were thinking incremental instead of dreaming exponential. Meanwhile, a man named Henry Ford was thinking different. The best way to reduce horse emissions? A horseless carriage, of course. The solutions to our biggest problems are very rarely less or more of the same. You have to break the rules. You have to change the game. You have to jump the curve. If you're struggling with making or breaking a habit, maybe it's time to try different. After all, as I've said before, your system is perfectly designed for the results you're getting. Try reverse engineering your routines and then reconstructing them a little differently. How? Add a prompt. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a deep breath to reset yourself. It can be a stretching routine that allows you to warm up or cool down. It can be a simple thought or a prayer that you put on repeat. Before I speak, I pray this prayer. Lord, help me help people. It shifts my focus from self-consciousness to others' consciousness. There you are. Change the routine. Oh, I love that. So before he speaks, he always prays, Lord, help me help people. I love that. That's great. I might adopt that. All right, change the routine. That is, I love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, that is day 22, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Blessings to our replayers that catch the replay. And enjoy your Monday. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.